ago for
Okay.
the order of business. I haven't really had an opportunity to look at it, so I guess I will. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Carolyn, are you ready to start?
Yes, sir, you're good to go.
All right, it is 4:37 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order of the Albemarle County Historic Preservation Committee. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20A16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. Opportunities for public access to this meeting are posted on the county's website at the county calendar. The public has real-time audio visual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone. Both is provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. Please note that this online meeting is a public record and is subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. The chat function has been turned off for this meeting, and everyone who is participating today, please remember it is good practice to mute your microphone until it is your turn to speak. There is a quorum present. We have a new member, but he is not apparently attending today. His name is Peter Daniel, and we will wait to hear from him at our next meeting, I guess. We don't have the Board of Supervisors liaison with us, nor the Planning Commission liaison with us. I will proceed for that.
And just
the approval of, go ahead.
Supervisor Malik just joined, just to add. I believe she raised her hand as well.
All right.
She's in the meeting
now.
Is
there, I'm kind of going back and forth here, the motion to adopt the minutes of March. I was not at that meeting, so I'm not going to vote. Is there any change to those minutes? If not, I'd accept a motion for approval.
I motion for approval.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve these minutes. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, the minutes are hereby approved. The next item is the website changes that have been made to the HPC portion of the county's website. If you'd like to share comments about that, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Yes, Liz.
This was something we touched on, I think, in the conversation around our website, and we just tagged, I think, or identified our landing page as a place where we could supplement with more information about the local markers program, and probably think of a way to discuss and have it linked to the Office of Equity and Inclusion and the Community Remembrance Project, because that page references the local markers. So they, we can kind of maybe build a little on what the OI landing page talks about to, both sort of identify what we're working on currently, which is the 5 topics pertaining to history around women and people of color. And then also we can maybe think about how we might discuss that we are working on a local markers program, a more permanent one, and maybe offer like some way, I don't know, Margaret, I'm just thinking out loud that people who are interested could use that portal to maybe eventually they would submit topics there. But at least, or learn more or express interests. Siri has occasionally forwarded me inquiries from folks that, have heard about it or want to learn more or want to submit a topic. And I've just been keeping a running list of those. They certainly are noted, and we have about 8 of them, running list of about 8 topics. So maybe that could be a way that we could continue to have good community engagement around that.
I'll ask and see what the possibilities are there, and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
I have a question also about the exactly what version of that website we're using. I have 2 different, going to the same address, web address, I get 2 completely different versions of it. And I'm not sure which one is the one we're using. Is the one we're using the fuller one with the numerous pictures on it? Or is it just the one with a picture of Redlands, which doesn't have any of the additional links to?
Those are 2 different pages. That's the Historic and Cultural Resources page versus the Historic Preservation Committee page. 2 different.
Right. Okay. Okay.
It is kind of.
And so we're talking then about the Historic Preservation Committee page, I'm assuming. That's correct. Margaret?
Margaret sent those links. I'll let her.
Okay. We're asking for comments on either of them.
Okay. There's not very much on the Historic and Cultural Resources page at all. And some of it kind of duplicates, or more or less duplicates, what we've got on the HPC page. So I'm not sure that both of them are essential. I have to say I'm somewhat disappointed in some of the new pages that have been created recently for the county, but I'll let that go. Nancy, you had a comment or a question?
I mean, I just looked through it a little bit ago, and I think it's quite handsome, and it seemed like it was pretty easy to maneuver around. The things that for me that I found really helpful or interesting were all the resources on the right-hand side, the column. That's a wealth of information over there, and I thought that was really great. But the comments I had was that couldn't figure out how someone would know how it's relevant to them, or how they would make use of this website in determining their situation should they own a historic piece of property. What it sort of stands right now as a kind of an administrative record of things and what the committee is, what the committee does. But if I'm a homeowner and I'm interested in finding out, the very things that this committee is interested, the very core, the mission of this committee, how do I know what to do? Who do I contact? Could there be maybe a little frequently asked question, just a tab that you would hit? Otherwise it just kind of stands as a fact of all of this information. Then I really appreciate and enjoyed looking at all the pictures, the rotating pictures, but there's no information about any of these places. And I think it would be really important to say something about them. First of all, there are 8 pictures, 2 of which were copies. It looked to be like Guthrie Hall were copies. And, there just must be a whole load of pictures that we could be putting up there, from big historic estates down to, some of the really simple little stores and shops that were, along the road. I just feel like it needs to be much broader, and then talk about why they're there. That the building faced destruction and demolition in 2009, but was saved and is now being used as a something. So it just becomes more relevant to the user.
I think that's a good suggestion. Other comments? Margaret, what sort of plan or timetable is this on? Will changes, if changes are made, will they be made as we go along, or?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly how to answer. I think it probably depends on what all we're asking for, and who's available maybe to help put the information together that needs to be, transferred to the website. I know there's a lot of photos that we could add, but if those are all going to need, additional text to go with them, if we can have committee help to do that, that would certainly make that go along more quickly. I'm not sure if, I don't know if there's a limit to the number of images that we're allowed to have scrolling on the website. That might be worth knowing.
Could we hire an intern?
We don't have money for interns at the moment. But I think it would be a good idea for us to get together a list of everything that we think needs to be changed and what needs to be added. And let me go and ask Stephanie Banton, who's our staff member who's helping us get this all updated, and see what she can tell me. Jared, you said you didn't think that the information on the historic and cultural resources page was needed?
No, well, I just don't think it's, I don't think it's particularly valuable. There's not very much there.
It's
And
speaking to the chapter from our comprehensive plan, so that's probably why it's structured. in
yeah,
that.
I suppose. But it's kind of, there's not a lot there.
So it's got the, this is where we have the references to the National Register Historic District.
Right, right.
Do you think that should be just moved to somehow incorporated as a resource on the other page?
Well, my impression is that a number of pages on the new county website are not particularly helpful. They don't really, they're pretty generalized and pretty limited, and it's not clear to me how they've really improved things.
Well,
And that goes beyond HP, I'll have to say, but that's another matter. That's beyond error.
that is another matter. So this is sort of the format that's been set up. So we have the committee page, and then there's this other page that's under learn more about. So
Right.
right now it's got the National Register District information in there. It doesn't mean that's the only thing that can be there. So
It seems like it would make sense to link to our committee there as well, because that's not showing up. It's got
Yeah, that would be a start, I think.
to learn more about the registers, go to the DHR site to learn more about properties in the county, click here, and then, But to learn about this committee, go here.
Anything
Yeah, I
else?
didn't see, I don't think there wasn't a link before, I don't think.
Going back to the resources on our site, and I can't believe that Ed Lay isn't speaking up to talk about all of his photos, which we have, and are just such a treasure. We have all those collages that were made for some county event 2 years ago. Do you remember the collages of like lost churches, lost log houses, lost and preserved? Are those resources on the site? Those just images, that could be something. It's almost like a committee project, right? Because that was something that we
And shared those email wise. I think we're trying to figure out
Yes,
how
Well,
to add them to the site or get resources to add them.
yes, Ed.
Well, if you did use some of those, they're also self-explanatory because it
Yeah.
tells you these buildings have been destroyed or these buildings are endangered, so it's already done. And there's
Right.
a multitude of them
Quickly.
on one thing. So it would seem that it would be a good use of them because when you just throw up all the pictures like we have now on it, it doesn't really, and I think most of those pictures are mine too, by the way, that you have on there. But they don't mean anything. They're just a bunch of buildings. So
Right, I think that's what Nancy was saying, right, Nancy? Yeah.
Right.
yeah, they're just a bunch of buildings, and it doesn't really. Whereas where we already spent all that time doing all those other things for that thing, and it tells you what they're all about and all that sort of thing. And it seemed like it'd be a good use of them, but it's up to you.
So the let's just call in the collages. Do you all think that should be under the committee projects, or do you want that converted to replace these scrolling images?
I could see it either
think-
way. I mean, they'll kind of get
Yeah, it
lost
could be.
under projects.
I think also having a changing group of images is a good thing, especially if they can be accompanied by descriptions. It gives a fuller range of some of the resources we have in Albemarle.
Okay. Other ideas?
Well, I have a question. When a building is going to be demolished and a team of two goes out to document it, where does that information go?
We've got it saved in our files.
So if someone wanted to start to see a record of what happened to that old Sismont school or the old, something, there's no way that is the public allowed to see that information? I mean, to see the pictures and that seems like that would make the website quite valuable. People would go to this website then to find out, the record of what happened to this building.
And how do you see that being displayed? Would it be a rotating image, or would it be another thing you click on, or what? Any idea?
You're not talking about having the website display buildings that are about to be demolished. Is that correct? Because I think that would be a big mistake.
Talking about photos of demolished buildings.
Right. There's no reason why it couldn't be a changing group over time as well. With,
Seems like
again,
we should
with
have an
descriptions.
Like we could have an archive of, just a simple It's an archive of, buildings that have been demolished and images of them.
Right.
Sort of start with that.
I think it would be an interesting display.
And just to make sure I'm clear, Jared, when you say photos changing over time, do you mean the scrolling photos, like what's on the website right now, or do you mean that maybe next month it's a different group of scrolling images?
Could be either, as far as I'm concerned. We used to do a situation where we'd have a different building periodically, and that was when there was only one. But it could be either, provided there was some explanatory text for each of the images, whichever way they're.
Right.
Can someone share a screen as to what the main page looks like? I don't have it up, and
Yeah, I can. Are you able to see the?
Mhm. Yep.
Yes.
So this is the committee's page. So it's the purpose, meeting information. Here we've got the scrolling images, and then on the right is the list of resources, list of committee projects, list of committee members, links to other preservation organizations.
Well, maybe that becomes a committee project, creating this archive of buildings that have been demolished and images for, someone who's interested to see it.
Mhm.
This might be a website limitation that we need to check internally, but I'm curious to see if there's the ability to have rotating images that instead of, if you look down, it shows 8 images, they only show 1 image. And you have to click on each individual image to get to a different set of rotating images, but the website might limit that possibility.
Oh.
That makes sense to.
Sorry, Chris. So if I click on one of these, it takes me to a different group?
No, I was saying if there's a possibility that, I'm not sure, that might be a website limitation, but the ability to click on, say, image 8, and image 8 would take you to a different set of rotating images instead of seeing the images at the top and bottom of dual kind of rotation of being able to add more images of properties within the county, and then there'd be another image that have a still image of demo properties, and you click on that, and then it would have a rotating image of properties that have been demoed. But that might.
I think the problem you're trying to solve is that this website format is limited in how it draws attention to more than just one thing. It's like you've got one thing, and then you've got a sidebar of
Right.
actual, like, more relevant content, frankly. Like, one thing that occurred to me as you were speaking was, like, could we have, instead of just this like marquee of photos, or maybe in addition to it, something that was like, check out the featured project, or the what's the committee working on now? And that could be a place where we could better highlight the local markers program. Or in the future, it could be a place where we highlight an archive of demos, or, something we're working on in the future. Because it just does seem like Nancy said, there's a lot of good resources on the side, but they're kind of like, what draws your attention to them?
Right. Yeah.
I think, Margaret, under the 2 paragraphs that are at the top of the page,
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be, without taking a lot of space, I think that could be really valuable if you added another paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
how can we help? How can the committee help you? That's silly, I know, but why would anyone contact this committee? You know?
Right.
Would it be language related to our letter? Like, would it be something that we already are, can we poach from our letter that goes out to historic homeowners? Because we offer a lot of good information there.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
So I think that, putting these photos here was just a recommendation because there are other committees have done this and it looked good on their web pages. It doesn't mean that this committee has to do this. I mean, you could have, I'm thinking now, you could have a scrolling image that says, check out the county's demolition archive or the committee's demolition archive. And then the next thing that scrolls is, check out our preservation manual and,
Yeah, I think that's what Chris was saying.
yeah, you could do it.
Yeah.
You could do that instead, or maybe one of these was, or I mean, it could just say, look to the right. I don't, you'd be able to click on it.
Sure. Yeah, click on the right. Yeah, and it would probably just be making a JPEG of something that included a photo and a little bit of something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could take some pictures of to build out the local markers. I owe you a picture of the marker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think those are great ideas. Are there other ones? You want me to jump to the other page? Look at that.
I mean, I definitely think the pictures are important. I mean, I think people don't even recognize that an old, kind of beat up building like something could be valuable. I mean, I know I spent some time scrolling through all of the pictures and, ones did I know and, I wonder where that one's located or.
Right. And I think at the last, we did say, we were looking to update the credits. So we thought it was important just to get some images in here to get people looking at it rather than have everything absolutely, perfect. So.
Yeah.
We know there's work to do.
And again, I think some additional explanatory text identification text beyond just the name of the building might be useful. And we have all that information. It's just a matter of getting it displayed.
Okay, so what do you think is what does everyone think is the priority? Is it to switch out these photos for the photos that were in the collages? Is that something else?
Oh, we could start there.
I love the idea of adding these collages. That sounds fantastically interesting. That, under as a committee project, is that possible? That's what this committee was looking at, the lost churches.
Yeah, they could certainly live in full under a project, and then maybe as needed on the marquee kind of page.
Okay.
And I do have all those saved, in their original PDF, like JPEG or PDF, if you guys need them again or need me to share them.
Okay.
Well, it reminds, is it like this country store booklet and poster on the committee projects? I enjoyed looking through that,
I wasn't involved in that. If I can screen share, I can share examples of the collages.
Sure, I'll stop sharing.
I might need a, okay. So the images don't have the sort of like what this is, but the file name does. So it would need a little bit of, explaining, but these are like examples of preserved vernacular. Can I go to the next one? So preserved. Again, I think vernacular.
That's
endangered,
fantastic.
Lost Albemarle, Zion's Baptist, lost barns, lost bridges, lost churches. We got to have some good stuff though on the website, right? At some point, I hope it's not just all lost stuff.
Are they all lost? They are all lost?
The majority of what we had was lost, but we did have those preserved collages at the beginning. And I think they were preserved. Yeah.
Well, they should all be referenced on a map, a dot.
It's just a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Well,
I might be a little reluctant to put the preserved ones on a map. Not sure we want people to go searching for them. Okay, so Liz, you've got the individual. You have files for the individual photos.
I have them like this, yeah.
Oh, like that, not like you don't have.
The raw images, no. I think that actually Ed created these collages. I think I might have helped him label them or put them onto like different PDFs for printing. But the image that you're seeing came from, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he has a program where he, lays these out.
You still have the ones, I thought the ones that you put as posters though were even better.
Yeah, so
you took my pictures, then you put something around them.
that's right. I made like
You still have I have them if you don't, and
yes, we do have those. We have that option as well, and that would be a little bit more conducive to how you want to display them on the site.
Okay, so I misunderstood. I thought that what you all were getting at was that you wanted these individual images of like one building. You wanted that to be scrolling, but that's not what you want. You want the poster image. Okay. Okay.
the collage, yeah.
Okay, so you want the.
But that wouldn't mean that you can't have the ones that you have them to start out with, though, too. I mean, I'm sure your site can tack on a lot of pictures. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, so that's okay. So under committee projects, you'd like to be able to access the series of collages, correct? Okay.
Correct.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, these are the ones we did for your for the celebration.
That's right.
In other words, Liz took these and put them into this frame and all that for you.
Right. Okay. Okay. So then for scrolling images, are we talking about some version of that for scrolling images or no?
Could be.
It would seem to me that your site could take on a lot more than you might imagine. Don't you think you can take on a lot of, can you find out how much you can do? Because the thing you started out with, I thought was also good too. I mean, they have a lot of different images and so on. But
To give you direction, how about we start with that as a project and then work to better hone in on what our landing page wants to have.
yes, that'd be good. That'd be good.
I'm curious, did you build content based on any of the questionnaire, community development questionnaire that we did for the 250th anniversary, like the tax incentives and things like that? Is that something that should a questionnaire be included? Should that continue, or were we satisfied with that information, the information that we gathered?
Quite frankly, I think the whole thing was a disaster. to be perfectly honest with you. I was there and I was very disappointed with the whole situation. We
Mhm.
spent all that time sitting there and all. It was really, and the publicity was negligible. People's talks nobody went to hardly, and it was so poorly handled, to be perfectly honest with you. And if I were in charge of that, a lot of people's heads would roll. Okay.
Didn't
That's
we
all I
get
can tell you.
really, didn't we glean some really good data back from our questionnaires? I mean, I think we had something like 70 to focus on the positive if we could. I think, my memory is escaping me, but Diane, thanks for reminding, like we did those community questionnaires and got, comments like, yes, this is really important to me. But what was the final deliverable on that? Or what?
That's what I'm wondering, if that's something that needs to be ongoing. I'm not sure what the outcome, the final a final outcome from, based on that information that we
Maybe
that
that should be-
information that we fielded.
Maybe that should be the project, was this day, this event,
Mhm.
and the outcomes of that were the collages, were the community input, the, results in a pie graph. If we still had that, I actually think I might have done a summary. I have to go back and look. That's exactly the kind of stuff that should live on the, what are we doing page.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But Diane, were you also suggesting that it'd be good to have like a live questionnaire that people could?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Much more of a tool. I think it sort of, it bounces off of what Nancy's saying and make it more of a tool that's usable, a usable tool, a website that's just not pretty and, oh, nice, fantastic pictures, and they are, but just something that's functional and serves a purpose.
Well, given that the quantity of participation in that event was pretty limited, I think we would need a lot more input than we got from that particular event. I agree with Ed that there should have been a lot more feedback or input than we got. We can certainly start with that, but if we were pursuing an ordinance path, for example, we would be way short of anything remotely like useful information in terms of public feedback.
Well, Margaret was going to you were going to look into what tools might be available for us to have a kind of portal for people to engage with the local markers. Maybe that could be opened up to be more general. Are you interested in this, or this kind of thing?
Mhm. Mhm.
I like what
That's a good
Diane's
idea.
saying about having a way of interacting.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
The last thought I had about that the marquee, the scrolling images, can we use it to show a success story? A success story, of a house that was, dilapidated and then now what it looks like is kind of the goal, and a real strong visual of what the purposes of the committee is.
And dowry.
That'd be great.
Very good. Is there anything else we want to discuss about this particular topic? We have a number of things to move through and a limited amount of time remaining to do it. I don't want to cut this off, but I'd like us to move along to some other things. We've only got about 45 minutes remaining. All right.
That's good comment to go for now. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I think that's good comment to go on for now. Thank you.
Right. Okay, good. And I want to back up just a moment and welcome Peter Daniel, our newest member. We're glad you're with us. And we look forward to hearing from you. We're pleased that you're along. Work group updates, subcommittee work. Margaret, you're going to do a brief presentation on the requirements for subcommittee meetings, which I think we badly need. I'll let you do that. You're muted.
Yes, I'm gonna try and share my screen again. See if this works. Are you able to see my PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me just make one more change here. Okay. So, as you know, the county has begun a pilot program for subcommittee meetings, and the Historic Preservation Committee is one of the committees that's been chosen to test this program. I've been asked to sort of give a reminder on what the requirements are, so I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly. The trial period for this program is scheduled to run for a total of 6 months or until the end of the continuity of government ordinance. It's important for everybody to understand that the Historic Preservation Committee and its designated subcommittees are public bodies as defined by the Freedom of Information Act. And FOIA says that meetings of public bodies must be open to the public. Subcommittees have responsibilities associated with holding public meetings. The first requirement is for the subcommittee to schedule a Zoom webinar. That's a webinar, not a Zoom meeting. And gotta make one more change, sorry. Okay. And in the process of scheduling that webinar, we need to make sure that a password is not required, make sure that registration is not required. We do need to include the phone number, access information, and we need to enable the record the meeting automatically function.
Margaret, is this something that Carolyn or someone in the county will be helping to coordinate?
I'm going to run through this, and I hopefully I'll be making this clear. But when I'm saying here, what does the subcommittee need to do? This is what the subcommittee has to do. The subcommittee.
Okay, all right.
We're doing the Zoom webinar, and we're doing and making sure these items are addressed when that's being scheduled.
Okay.
Right, so the subcommittee also needs to provide for adequate posting of the meeting notice. And that's done by providing the meeting information to Carolyn at least 4 working days prior to the meeting. Carolyn then will take that information and post it to the website within 3 days of the meeting. That's the legal requirement. So that only allows for 1 day for turnover. So if the subcommittee knows earlier that they're going to be meeting, getting that information to Carolyn earlier would be great, but at least 4 days before 4 working days before the day of the meeting. The notice must include that COVID statement, and it needs to identify the opportunities for public input. And if the posting requirements are not met, then the meeting needs to be rescheduled. The subcommittee is also responsible for creating the agenda. The agenda has to include the date and time of the webinar, the location. For most of us, that's just a virtual meeting. But if somebody was going out to say, document a building, if a subcommittee was going out to do that, then that location would need to be identified. The agenda also needs to identify the topics that are going to be discussed. It needs to, again, include that COVID meeting notice and the public participation information. We should be using the standard agenda template, and I honestly cannot remember if we forwarded that on to the marker subcommittee or not. No, okay, we will do that. I forgot to do that. I will get that to you. And that email needs to be, that agenda needs to be emailed to Carolyn, again, 4 working days prior to the meeting date. During the meeting, the subcommittee needs to be checking to see that the meeting is actually being recorded. They also need to disable the chat. And the chairperson of that subcommittee, again, needs to read that COVID statement, needs to identify the members that are present, and needs to read the statement about public access. And the subcommittee should also be taking minutes. If there are any technical problems that occur during the meeting that affect public access to the meeting, then the meeting needs to stop. And if the meeting business was not completed, then a new meeting would need to be scheduled following all the rules that we just discussed. After the meeting, the subcommittee still has additional responsibilities. The subcommittee needs to make that recording and the minutes available to staff for posting. So the recording will be too big to email. So we've provided the markers subcommittee with a OneDrive folder that the recording can be saved to. Then Carolyn will take that and post it to the website. Minutes can be emailed, and Carolyn again will post those to the website. So just in summary, what the subcommittee does, they notify staff of the Zoom webinar time and date, draft the agenda and email that to staff. The subcommittee attends the meeting. At the meeting, they disable the chat. They record the meeting, prepare the minutes, and provide the minutes and the recording to staff. Staff will post the meeting notice, post the agenda, post the meeting recording, and post the meeting minutes. And please follow the guidance. If the guidance isn't followed, we've been told that the subcommittee will no longer be able to participate in the pilot program. Questions?
Thank you
Yes,
for the information, Margaret. It will be helpful if you can forward that information to all the members of the HP committee. I think that would be a useful thing to do.
I can share the PowerPoint presentation if people.
That would be fine.
Makes it easier to follow, sure.
That would be fine.
Question for everyone. Have you already received from Greg Campner the sort of FOIA 101, 6 paragraphs or 2 pages or whatever that has all the detailed background?
There were
Because if not, that has to be sent out too.
There were 4 separate documents that were sent out about a month.
Okay.
ago.
Okay, good. Very good. And I have not seen the template yet, but does it have all the COVID gobbledygook already on it so that no one has to research that and they just can fill in their time and date and send it back to Carolyn?
Well, it's really just the agenda. If you saw the agenda for today's meeting, it's basically that with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there isn't research involved except for listing the time and date and items to be discussed. And the last question I have is, how do members provide the recording to Carolyn? Is that just to turn off the recording and click a save button and somehow it goes to the right place? Because if it's too big to send, how does one send it?
The markers subcommittee has been given a link to a OneDrive folder.
Okay. Okay. So,
Uploaded to that. If there are other subcommittees that will be working, we'll share it with them as well.
okay. I missed that part. Thank you very much.
Well, then can I ask, did the recording come through on that OneDrive folder? I mean, I thought I did it, but I didn't really know if it went through.
I did not see it the other day.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I can double check again now.
I really did try.
Are there other questions relating to this?
If it turns out that it did not get uploaded, Nancy, maybe we'll get together and do
Yeah.
some.
Someone might have to lead me through it. I also don't know how to set up a webinar. Maybe it's really simple. You know, I set up Zoom meetings all the time, but not a webinar.
They're pretty much the same. You just pick webinar versus meeting.
Okay.
And when you're ready to do the next one, if you want to call me and we can,
Right.
email me and we can, do you use Teams? Somehow we can get together and I'll help you with the next one if that will
Right.
help you.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further on this, I'd like to move ahead. The demo subcommittee, I'm sorry, let's start with Liz actually first and do the markers update.
There's Petey going downstairs. I am happy to provide an update on behalf of the local markers subcommittee. We met on April 19th, and although we might have not gotten all of the technical aspects, I very much believe that we met the substantive aspects of the local committee, the subcommittee requirements. We discussed broadly the how we might go about crafting a mission statement for a local marker program, both with consideration of the original intent of the Board of Supervisors directive to focus on historically marginalized people or communities, kind of thinking, obviously thinking about the merit of that. And, I don't think we've come to a conclusion, but understanding that probably the funding source would continue or could continue from the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And so that maybe helps guide our thinking as we think more about our mission statement and how this local marker program will operate and what ultimately it will provide to the community. We talked about operational and administrative items, one of that being budget and also, frankly, staffing requirements. If this program can successfully live as truly a subcommittee project, when and I'll just say, there are a lot of components to installing, in planning and designing and soliciting input and in choosing a location, in installing and ordering, there's a lot to a local market program, and we should think about what resources we might need to dedicate to that in order to have a successful product. We have not come to a conclusion on what our recommendation would be in terms of quantity, but we seem to be comfortable with possibly 2 markers in the spring and 2 markers in the fall. And also that we should not limit ourselves to just thinking of the physicality, the physical markers. We can also be thinking about integrating technology, perhaps like a map or a QR code or a link to a website or brochure, because the content on the markers can be pretty limited when it's limited by word count. But we want to, I think we would ultimately want to draw attention to a place, an event, or a community, but then also provide a way that people can learn more and really invite them to want to learn more. Let's see, we then talked about exploring some precedent. And then finally, we just kind of recapped our status on the 3 markers that we're working on right now. And we have I think we have some good next steps to pursue on those 3 marker topics, and hoping to still meet the timeline to be able to submit local marker topics for review to DHR for the June deadline, I believe. June deadline for the September board meeting.
Very good. Very good.
Make sure
Nancy,
Diane,
go
ahead.
Diane, do you have anything further?
No, I'm still thinking about the rules of engagement, and we're talking about we have to outreach at some point with community, and how that's done and how many people can do it, and if we can team tag when we do it, and if not, is this really the space to have a marker program. I'm just questioning that because it's going to take a lot of community engagement at some point, maybe not now, but at some point, community input. Is this the place and space to have such a, to initiate such a program?
Thank you. I also want to mention that I went by and looked at the marker that was put up for the Albemarle Training School, and that was a great job. I think it really provides a lot of good information. And I wanted to point out, in case you didn't know it, that a portion of that building, a portion of the building that's there is a building that was part of the original school. I hadn't really realized that until recently when I stopped and took some notes and made a longer look. But the south side of the building is in fact an original building from the training center. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Very good. Moving ahead, Ross, Ed, do you have anything to say about updates about the demo and documentation report?
No,
I know that Ross was out. Yeah, go ahead.
The Tabor Street property that I documented, I'm trying to get the Childs family to move it across the street, which they own the property, and they're part of the church committee for that demolition. But I don't know how far I'm getting, but there is some hope yet.
Did you talk to Molly Jones as well? She was the one who contacted me, so she would be somebody else to talk to.
Yeah, Joe, that's Joe's wife, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Joe was the one that heads that committee, and I'll chat with one of them.
Okay. Thanks for taking that on.
Sure.
Ed?
I thought there was one other building that came up at the same time as the Tabor one. I don't know whatever happened to that. Wasn't there another building?
It was the barn at Blenheim.
Is that what it was? Okay.
And then there was the one on Esmont Road.
We did. Oh,
right. That's been done. Very good. No, that was well done. I appreciate that effort. Yeah, the Blenheim barn, I think, was the other one involved. All right. Anything further? Thank you very much. I don't think we have an update on real estate letters. Do members or staff have any information on new owners of historic properties that they would like to share?
Was there an update on 6565 Esmont, or was that just on the agenda by mistake?
I was updated just because it was documented in between.
It was documented. That
in
was
between the past meeting and this meeting. It's kind of timing wise, documented right after the previous meeting.
Exactly. And I think that information went out, if I'm not mistaken. I think that the documentation on that was sent out. Photographs and so on. Ann?
My question is just for the group at large. On Longwood, there's a new owners, I guess, because they're tearing down all the fence lines and making big piles of trees. And Ross, do you have any info on who's got it now?
I don't know who the new owner is. No, I don't.
Okay, I'll try to dig in GIS or call Peter, one or the other. All right, thank you.
Okay. Margaret, I think, has a report on the soapstone quarry at Albemarle.
don't have a formal report, but I just wanted to mention to the group that I had received a email from Peggy Denby, who it looks like is attending our meeting right now. She had come across some quarry-related resources, Albemarle area, slate and soapstone, and just looking at the remnants of the stone and a lot of the surrounding area, and thinking that these are some resources that need to be documented and protected and possibly turned into a park. I don't know if Peggy wanted to say anything, but in our email correspondence back and forth, I said I would forward this on to this email onto the committee if Peggy wanted, and Peggy, I did not, I don't think I heard back from you on that, but I can still forward this on to everyone just for information and to see if anybody has any suggestions or ideas or anything else to say about it.
Is it privately owned?
I think Peggy said some of it is, some of it's under easement.
Peggy has been unmuted so she can
Can you hear
speak.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
As far, Liz, I'm not exactly sure who owns it, but we have looked at it. It's just that I've forgotten. It's right now owned by a company and they're using it for hunting. And it's a corporation that has formed to own it. I can get more information, but that's what's going on now. I think Dr. Lay wants to say something.
I was just going to mention to Peggy, I don't know what all you're doing there, but we have done, the students and I have done at least 3 projects there. One on the railroad system, the old supervisor's house, and also the store. And I don't know what all you want on the Albemarle soapstone thing, but we've done several projects.
Well, what I discovered on a trip through the woods were the remnants of the former quarry operation, and they're beautiful. And I sent pictures of those to Margaret. I just wanted somebody to know, other than me, that these things do exist. And as I said to Margaret, if I had time, I would be working on that full time. But I don't have time to do that right now. But I just wanted other people to be aware that it's there. I only photographed what's above the briars and the leaves. There may be other stuff there that I don't know about, but it's truly it's beautiful. And I think a story could be written to talk about every one of the pieces of building that I discovered, and the process that happened when the quarry was operational, and make it into a very active an active story. There's enough left to show exactly what they were doing. Even the canal where they couldn't raise the slate up high enough to put into the train, so they lowered the trains by cutting out a canal and bringing the train in below the slate. I mean, it was amazing what they did, and it's all there, and it's wonderful. I was very excited when I discovered it, to say the least.
I've just forwarded that email to everyone. Peter, I haven't added you to the list yet. I will send that to you separately.
Margaret, or even Anne, would this be the kind of topic or interest that folks would want to engage in regards with in regards to the comprehensive plan update? And I know that dates haven't been set, but as staff start to look to certain areas, how might communities learn more about what it might be privately owned now, but maybe there's a future opportunity and that could be declared on something like a future land use map. I don't know if I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Margaret may have more details to say, but I would say it is our only mining district in the county in the comp plan. So that has always been described by Greg Campner as the protection against the sort of Union Hill type transmission things and stuff like that, is that we have already designated a mining district. Now, if the company is completely kaput, then that will have to be modified. The last I knew was some young person who had bought it. That was probably last year. The Canadian people were supposedly gone. So this is all news to me. And it's certainly fascinating because we went down there in the 80s and bought materials and stuff in the old days. And it is an incredible place, but it will take certainly a special owner to facilitate telling the story. That's for sure. And I don't know exactly how it would fit in with the future uses. We've been fortunate in the county. Most of our public stuff is donated to us. So there may be some section of it that the new owners might consider, but I don't. This is all news to me. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah, I don't really have anything to add at this point. Yeah, nothing at this point.
All right. Are
Look
there,
forward to the information. I wish there were 20 more of Peggy's, because she does a lot in that part of the community.
Yes. Thank you, Peggy.
thank you. Recently demolished structures. I don't know of anything new that we haven't discussed since last meeting. And new resources available to assist in implementation of the HP plan. Perhaps we could mention the new website, which will feature some things that could be helpful. Is there anything else that we need to add this evening before we adjourn? We have a few minutes left, but not many. Ed? You're muted, Ed. Ed, you're muted.
Peter is our new member, and I'm just wondering if he wanted to say anything about his interest in the group at all, since we really didn't get to say hi to him.
You're putting me on the spot. Oh, thank you. This is nice. I've been a resident of Albemarle County for 6 years. I came from Connecticut, and I spent time with the National Trust for Historic Preservation site at the Philip Johnson Glass House. So I know a fair amount about architecture and that kind of thing. And I've always had an interest in heritage and art, as well as architecture. So, and this is a perfect place for that. So this committee was of great interest to me. I do have, if we have a few minutes, I was going to ask just 2 questions. One was collaborate with the Virginia Landmark or Department of Historic Resource as far as these landmark signs, because I'm aware that in Ivy, for instance, they've recently approved landmark signs for Reverend Frederick Neve. And most of you, I guess, are already aware of this, I would assume, because the guy did all these various churches and missions around the county.
Right.
We collaborate with them on various initiatives. I don't know.
We didn't have anything specific to do with that marker.
That's a landmark. So is that a Virginia landmarks designation?
Yeah, I do recall
That
that.
would be
Yeah.
different. Road marker. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be up in
Virginia, the Department of Historic Resources that has that put up the marker, approved the marker.
Right.
And we didn't do it, but somebody did. Apparently, it was really a worthwhile thing for that guy. I mean, he should have been recognized a long time ago.
I'm a member of St. Paul's Ivy Parish, and that was where Frederick Neve was based, and from which he did all of the work that he did. And I think that the parish was the group that was responsible for sending this information to DHR and getting approval for the marker and creating the text.
Yeah, I just.
It was really more of almost more of a memorial to the man than to any kind of historic resource itself. But yes.
Which is not supposed to be the intent of the DHR marker program. See, that might
Well,
be
there's an awful lot of those that have been done over decades.
They might
Many-
offer, Nancy, we might think about them in understanding better the process of, so one of the things we're considering in our local marker program is if we have a topic that we think might qualify, might meet the intent of a state marker, which has to have regional or national or state significance, could we sort of, I shouldn't say elevate, but put it on a different path, meaning like it's not a local marker, this is a state marker, we still might administer it. And we, no one on this committee has, I mean, at least on the subcommittee, I can say has nominated a marker to DHR for a state marker, but it's not out of the question.
Right.
Curiosity.
And
a collaboration between Virginia Landmark Commission and, for all the variety of Albemarle County markers there are, this would be certainly one. And this guy, apparently, Jared, you can share the 29 satellite missions that he set up.
We can't hear you. I don't think any of us can hear you very well, Peter. No, you weren't muted. You just weren't speaking very clearly. Now you're muted.
You're muted.
Peter, you need to unmute yourself and turn up the volume. Can you turn up your volume a little?
I don't know. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Frederick Neve set up, according to this article, 29 missions around the state for
Right.
various people of color, people of, whatever. I mean, it sounded like something that was timely, and I just didn't know, whether it was something that, would be under the purview of this commission. That was item one. Item two is, do we work with the local high schools to create interest amongst students for some of the historical markers that, Liz, you referred to in the text of the meeting?
And in the case of Reverend Neve, there have been a couple of books written about him, and he was responsible for, as you say, missions, 29 or 30 missions in a number of different counties in Virginia. So his work over a period of half a century or more had state significance, not simply local significance, which I'm sure is how he was able to rate a DHR marker.
And to your question about local high schools, that we have not established or really outlined a process for community engagement, but we certainly would want to. That's a great suggestion.
That was by and large what made the Memorial to Enslaved Laborers Project successful, because I was able to engage those students in middle and high school in that project. And I credit them with completing giving the input that they gave with the success of the community engagement of that project. So I agree, it's a good, again, we don't really know the rules of engagement, so that's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further to discuss, are we finished for today? Our next committee meeting is a virtual one. It's scheduled for May 24th at 4:30 p.m. This meeting is hereby adjourned to that next meeting on Monday, May 24th. The time is now 6:52 p.m. Thank you very much. 5:52 p.m. Excuse me. Thank you. We're adjourned.